Hello everyone, and welcome back to Steins Linear Bounded Phenogram. I'm G, and we are about to start the Kurisu route. Last time we did the Adaru route. The Cagebird sings in the, what was it? Delta Attractor Field. So now we are moving back to the Alpha Field with Vermilion Soteria. So let us begin. Dun dun dun! Vermilion Soteria. Oh my god! I'm so jazzed. I love Kurisu. She's great. A dark space? Where am I? What is this place? Why am I here? Wait, am I even? My head throbs slightly. I look to my left and to my right, but I can't see a thing. There's a dark space, pitch black. There's no sound but the ticking of a clock. Am I in a sensory deprivation tank? No, I don't remember entering one, and if I had, I wouldn't be able to hear anything. But I can still hear the eerie sound of a clock. Tick, tock. I try to calm myself down and search my memories for answers. But my head is still unclear. Everything is foggy. To start with, who am I? I ask myself. But I can't remember anything. The sound of the clock is so strangely unsettling. I want to ignore it, but the harder I try, the worse it gets. It's scrambling my thoughts. Just why? This isn't one of Okabe's stupid pranks, is it? No, he wouldn't do anything this crazy. Huh? Okabe. Who is that? Even in this state, you still remember that name, do you? Huh? Me? A female figure appears before my eyes. Even with my uncertain memories, I was convinced the figure standing before me was me. So you understand at least this much, don't you, Makise Kurisu? Makise Kurisu! At that moment, a torrent of images rushed into my brain. 11 years ago on my birthday, when I upset my dad and shattered our relationship. My mama taking me with her as she moved to America. Working brutally hard to graduate college early, and working as a researcher at Victor Condoria University's Neuroscience Institute. This year, when Papa, real name Shoichi Makise, publicly known as Dr. Nakabachi, sent me a letter saying he will hold a press conference to commemorate the completion of his time machine. Temporarily returning to Japan as a sort of reverse exchange student at a Japanese high school. And then... Huh? What's the matter? You don't remember? What happened next? I came to Japan and was murdered by my papa. No, that's not it. I met that weird person in the lab coat at the lecture and... No, I met that person in the white robe before Papa murdered me. My memories become convoluted. Multiple intersecting memories tangle up inside my head. I ended up being friends with Okabe, even though he initially annoyed me at the ATF lecture. That's right, I remember. Okabe Rintaro. It all started when he began claiming that I was a ghost and that I should be dead already. And then at the lecture, he disputed the theory that time machines cannot be made with the technology available to us in this timeline. Which caught my interest, so I went to visit his lab. And they really were making a time machine. That's right. Humans couldn't travel to the past in flesh, but they were able to send mails to the past. D-mail. That's right. Then we repeated the D-mail experiment to verify whether we could send a message to the past to change it. Then over the course of our experiments, Okabe and I... You seem to have remembered quite a bit. So can you remember what you were doing just now? Now. What was I doing just now? Actually, that leads me back to my original questions. So what is this place? And why am I here? Thinking rationally, the most reasonable explanation is that this is a dream, and I am currently asleep. As far as I can remember, I was staying up all night upgrading the phone wave. I was trying to make a more advanced time machine that could not only D-mail to the past, but people's memories as well. But now that I think of it, I don't remember falling asleep. If this is a daydream, it's unusual for it to have taken over my senses to this extent. You're on the right track, but you're also incorrect. How could it be both? Wouldn't that mean I'm just wrong? Haha, how very like you. Always demanding such black and white answers. If there's no right or wrong in terms of the words we use to communicate, the meanings we assign to them lose their value. Isn't that only natural? Yes, you're right. You should be just as you are, even in the coming story you will soon experience. Story? What's she saying? Most dreams tend to be incoherent mishmash of ideas, which makes the relatively logical through line of this conversation all the more strange. Even if my brain is producing this dialogue by association with external stimuli, there are still many odd factors. There's no need to be so deeply concerned. You should just accept things as they are, and simply be as you are. The story may be like a mirage, your memories vanishing the moment you leave this place, or it may be some sort of illusion. Perhaps it's a vision of something that never existed, an unexplored possibility. Regardless, now that you are here, you have both the right and responsibility to see it through to its end. What do you mean? August 13th. On August 13th, 2010 at 2:06 p.m. This is where our story starts. And it concludes at 5:34 p.m. the same day. Huh? My consciousness jolts in reaction to the date. The time. A time not in my memory. But for some reason, deep inside my heart, I felt shaken. My consciousness fades. The sound of the clock won't leave my ears. The wheels of time, they draw an infinite spiral that eventually loops back to whence it came. I should know full well where their trails lead. That's why you must confirm things for yourself, and save it all. Save yourself. Save him. Wait a minute, you can't just force me to. My consciousness rapidly clouds. The sound of the clock gets louder as if to consume my thoughts. My awareness flakes away as the bell rings. It's like I'm falling asleep. Or rather, waking from a dream. And then Done! Connecting the last two cables, I declare my status to the lab mems, and especially Okabe. I've successfully upgraded the phone wave, creating what may be the world's first time machine, capable of sending not only information through time, but humans themselves. Improved the D-mail functionality, the technology that lets us send information to the past via email, will allow us to compress the human consciousness to 36 bytes and send it to the past. Of course, the sender and the receiver must be the same person, and we can only send their consciousness, or, to be more specific, their memories. Nonetheless, this machine represents humanity's first steps into the realm of time travel. I believe we may have just created something extraordinary. That's right, we've created a power that can transcend the law of causality and change the world. Everyone here understood the weight of what we've done. And so, though we were in the presence of this tremendous invention, none of us expressed even a hint of excitement. I've done something terrible. My chest is filled with dread. I followed my personal impulses to test my theory and bring my idea into being. Held by my lab mem's shared passion, I pressed onward with my creation. But now that it's completed, I'm completely overwhelmed. Initially, I had a feeling that I shouldn't create a time machine. The very existence of a time machine defies common sense. It holds the power to rewrite history, to change the past, present, and future. Our world is governed by the rule of cause and effect, but a time machine completely breaks this rule. In the event of a failure, one can travel back in time to remove the cause of said failure, thus ensuring that it never happens. A disruption would be the same. Travel to the past, divert or eliminate the interruption, and you can complete what you were working on undistracted. This is akin to holding the power of a god in your hands, militarily and politically at least. Scientifically, its value is immeasurable. Which is precisely why this technology must not be allowed to exist. The power of a time machine would be too much for humanity to handle in a more civilized future, let alone now. The rockets and nuclear weapons of the 20th century were the same way. The small number of people who controlled these technologies created an imbalance of power on the world stage. Even in the 21st century, the scars of that imbalance still remain. Scars that restrict scientists such as myself to this day. But now, I've created this. I've created a time machine. For no reason other than I wanted to see if I could. I understood how dangerous it could be and even feared it. I rejected the very idea that it could exist, but even then, I was driven by my curiosity about the unknown and my desire as a researcher to push the bounds of possibility. The same motivators that led me here, to the Future Gadget Laboratory in the first place. When I saw the experience Okabe and the others were conducting, when I saw them send mail to the past with the phone wave, curiosity consumed me. And the result was this upgraded phone wave. Ashida. Mayuri. And even the leader of the Future Gadget Laboratory, the self-proclaimed notorious mad scientist, Ho-Wing Kyoma, Okabe. None of them could bring themselves to speak. I looked from face to face, seeing uncertainty in each one. But eventually, unsurprisingly, the first to speak was Okabe.
First order of business will be coming up with an official name.
All things considered, the way he directs everyone else around him is very leader-like. That said, given his first reaction is for us to come up with a name, tells me that he's not taking this seriously enough. Eventually, we decided that the upgraded phone wave would be given the name of Time Leap Machine, though that was also subject to change. Okabe came up with a far more Chunibyo name during the process, but ultimately Mayuri chose the simple name that I proposed. Then at Okabe's urging, I proceeded to explain how the Time Leap Machine functions. Essentially, this device converts one's memories into data, passes that data through a ring singularity, and sends it to the past. The receiver will then acquire the memories of their future self. The Time Leap Machine's biggest innovation, as stated previously, is the ability to send the user's memories into the past. To transcend time, something must pass through a ring singularity. Simply put, the area near a black hole. If anything physical attempted this, it would be crushed by the black hole's supergravity. Suffice it to say, physical objects won't be traveling through time anytime soon. However, we were able to circumvent this issue by converting the user's memory into data and sending that data through the ring singularity. And that was only made possible by the existence of CERN's LHC. Hashida's hacking gave us the ability to manipulate the LHC, which is able to create many black holes. In turn, this allowed us to utilize the infinite compression of the supergravity created by the black holes to adequately compress the memory data. With this extraordinary power, we were able to complete the Time Leap Machine. I finished talking about the Time Leap Machine's functions and dangers, then take a breath. It seems that Mayuri has zoned out due to the complexity of the topic, but Okabe and Hashida seem to have understood sufficiently. Then, my lengthy explanation complete, silence descends upon the laboratory once again. Okabe, Hashida, and I study each other's facial expressions. It's clear that we're all trying to delay an important decision. How to make use of our time machine's godlike power. Once again, Okabe finally broke the long silence. He cleared his throat, took a breath, and spoke.
What should we do? What do you mean, what should we do?
How do we use the Time Leap Machine? Okabe surveys the room as he speaks. His gaze settles on me. He probably wants me to state my opinion. Sitting in silence in the middle of a debate, as you might expect, is a faux pas. It is a researcher's duty to offer and discuss their opinion, whatever it may be. But I had my reasons for not speaking up. I was conflicted. Obviously, this isn't something we can freely use. As I said earlier, to monopolize and abuse the ability so godlike would produce the same sort of problems that nukes do. However, it would be a lie to say that I didn't want to experiment. I wanted nothing more than to test my creation out and see if it worked. This is absolutely my ego speaking, my self-righteous, inconsiderate desires as a scientist. This is like Werner von Braun, who in pursuing his desire to go to the moon, developed rockets for the military. One second, I just want to check. Ah, I do have a phone! Anything? No. Anything? No. Interesting. Okay. Only to see his V2 rockets turn London into a sea of flame. My internal sense of what's right and my desires as a researcher were in conflict with one another. Which is why, when Okabe's gaze fell upon me, I felt there was nothing I could say. Why is this man only serious in times like this? I grit my teeth and inaudibly curse under my breath. This man, Okabe Rintaro, is a surprisingly serious person. Even if his Chunibyo comes out in full force when he's worried or backed into a corner. When I talked about my problems with my father, or if the other lab members are having a hard time, he treats us all with care and respect. And I can tell from the look on his face that he's absolutely serious right now. The one staring at me isn't Ho-Wing Kyoma, but Okabe Rintaro. This isn't something we can handle alone, that's for sure. The safest thing we could do is hand it over to a research institution and treat it as a national project. I muttered my response, knowing full well that I hadn't quite convinced myself. I want to experiment. However, there's no way we can handle something like a time machine, and given the risk involved, I don't just want to use it on a whim.
I just can't wrap my head around the fact that it's real.
I can't wrap my head around any of this.
Well, Maishi, that might be because you didn't really work on it, right?
Oh, I guess so. It didn't seem like Hashida and Mayuri understood the enormity of the situation at first, but from the way they're acting, I can tell that they aren't completely blind to it. Which means that the most important opinion is Okabe's. What about your opinion, Okabe? And to clarify, I'm not asking for Ho-Wing's, but Okabe's. I emphasize this last point, given that Okabe often retreats into the Chunibyo act when he's stressed. There's a possibility he would have answered me as Ho-Wing Kyoma. Still, I think the chances of that would be fairly slim even if I hadn't nipped it in the bud. As I mentioned earlier, Okabe is fairly serious deep down. In a sense, the reason I emphasized my desire to hear Okabe's opinion was to show my faith in him. As long as it is Okabe Rintaro who speaks and not Ho-Wing Kyoma, I will abide by his decision. That was my intent. Even if he decided to perform an experiment, I would be willing to be our test subject.
I want to do an experiment.
Okabe said, after a moment of silence. I swallowed my breath. If that's what you've decided. My resolve strengthened. Those words were on the tip of my tongue. But before I could speak them into being, Okabe continued his thought and put an abrupt stop to my momentum.
But there are too many problems to actually perform a time leap right now.
His assertions were correct. The time leap machine alone has its share of problems. And that's before we get to time paradoxes. For one thing, we can't conduct an experiment with an animal or stand-in. We need a human test subject. I thought of experimenting on myself, but I have to admit I was afraid. Although I was prepared to offer myself up as a test subject in my excitement, Okabe's words put a stop to that. He asked the other lab members if they were willing to volunteer. Unfortunately, by halting my momentum, Okabe may have put a stop to our experimentation. There was no way Hashida and Mayuri would volunteer. And I think Okabe might have known that. The fact that he spoke at that exact moment may have been a calculated move to kill my momentum. He usually acts like he's incapable of such calculations. I understand that his intelligence skyrockets in critical situations like this. Or rather, I've come to understand that. Hey! After some half-hearted exchanges, the conversation once again came to a stalemate. Mayuri, who had been silently watching this whole time, finally spoke up. Hey, she doesn't know much about complicated stuff, but... Could we just time leap one of the bananas that maybe she just brought home? While untenable, I could tell that Mayuri had put some thought into the idea. A carefree attitude helped soothe my frayed nerves. Well, Mayuri, bananas don't have brains like humans do they? That's right. As I mentioned earlier, the time leap machine needs a human test subject. That was the source of all my fears. And one of the major hurdles to overcome for this machine. Well, that's right. That's no good then. Mayuri didn't even try to defend her idea after my explanation. She may have been aware that her theory was misguided in the first place. So does that mean she thought it necessary to speak up to ease the tension in the air? Maybe she didn't think it so much as feel it. I fully understand in the 2 weeks that we've spent together that she's no fool. Knowing that, perhaps my suppositions aren't too off base. And her gambit seemed to work. The tension filling the lab had now transformed to something different.
Let's leave this alone for now.
Okabe said, as if guided by the change in atmosphere.
We should hand over the time leap machine to an appropriate research institution. Furthermore, we will publicize it.
Neither Hashida nor I had any objection to this decision. As long as we entrusted the decision to him, that was the sure outcome. A little while later, I was finally able to calm myself down. Humanity's first time traveler. The temptation to use the time leap machine to claim that title was nearly overwhelming, to be honest. It would both prove my proposed theory and symbolize humanity's first step into a previously unknown dimension. I imagine the first people on the moon felt much the same way. But at the same time, there's still fear inside of me. Both the fear of the unknown, and worse yet, the fears passed down to me by my father. My father, Shoichi Makise, is a time machine researcher. But because time travel theory is not yet sufficiently tested, the field is publicly regarded as little more than crazy pseudoscience. My father, Papa, lost everything when people labeled him a junk scientist. He was so attached to the idea of the time machine that he lost his job as a researcher, separated from me and my mama, and was even abandoned by his best friend who was funding his research. But research often pushes into the realms outside of common knowledge. The now commonly accepted Big Bang theory and the theory that black holes were collapsed stars were both laughed at in the time of their publication. Theories that we now consider essential to our understanding of the universe were thought to be junk science. That is why, as a scientist, it is inappropriate to reject things without a second thought, even if they are seen as crazy. All things deserve proper verification and confirmation. While I told myself this, I still found it hard to accept. In my mind, ideas that are too bizarre, too crazy, or too new are best avoided. To be blunt, the Big Bang and black hole theories were the exception to the rule. Most of the junk theories we see in this world end up being just that, junk. The time machine theory is certainly among their ranks. There's very little evidence to back up the time travel claims, and mountains of reasons to reject them. In essence, it's the junkiest of all junk. So as a scientist, simply the fact that we've made a time machine is incredibly stressful. I don't want to end up like Papa. The fear strikes me directly in the heart. That's not my only fear related to him. If my Papa, who sacrificed everything in his life to research time machines, if he found out that someone else had successfully created a time machine, I'm afraid of how he'd feel. It's true that Papa and I were estranged because I rejected his time machine theory when I was younger. But at the same time, that theory motivated me. If the time leap machine actually works, regardless of whether or not his specific theory is correct, nobody could call him a junk scientist for studying time travel anymore. He might even be able to receive funding from a major company again. It's hard to stand still thinking of that. I could fulfill several personal goals by testing the time leap machine. Sating my curiosity about the unknown, fulfilling my desires as a scientist, enabling my papa to be accepted by the scientific community, enabling him to accept me. But at the end of the day, all of them only serve to feed my ego. There's no reason for us to wield the powers of a god. Okabe's decision to call off the experiment helped me realize this. I breathed a sigh of relief from the bottom of my heart. It took some time for me to accept it, but I can't help but think how extraordinary Okabe is. He helped me realize something I nearly lost sight of. He may be an annoying, crazy Chunibyo, but still. I suddenly look at the clock. 4:54 p.m. How's it already this late? I guess time flies when you're sleep deprived. Almost 5. Though we opted not to test the time leap machine, Mayuri suggested that we celebrate its completion. Which turned out to be a good decision. It would be a shame not to have any sort of event to look forward to, after working through the night. I'm not one for parties, but the lab I worked in America would take any excuse to throw one. My professors and supervisors told me that we scientists wouldn't last long without them. Which is why it was just about time for me to go out and buy party supplies. Okabe and I have been tasked with shopping for food and drinks. Mayuri has already gone out to invite the other lab members, and Hashida had left, citing some other obligations. All of a sudden, Okabe's cell phone rings. Is someone calling to say that they're coming to the party? Or could it be from Mayuri and Hashida? Okabe answers and puts the phone to his ear without a greeting. He lets out a trembling breath. Based on his reaction, it's likely that Hashida's launched into some lengthy story. It's certainly not the way he would answer a call from Mayuri. I approach the sofa where my jacket lays, intending to swap it with my lab coat and head outside. At that moment, out of the corner of my eye, I see Okabe lift a folding chair into the air. Okabe, what the hell are you doing? Shocked at what I was seeing, I ran over and grabbed hold of him. I planted my weight on the tatami mat on the floor and reached up to catch his arms before he brought the chair down. I was so surprised that I didn't even have time to think. What was Okabe trying to do just now? If I'm seeing things correctly, Okabe was about to bring that chair down on the time leap machine. Did you just try to destroy it? I couldn't believe what was happening. Okabe probably cared more about this machine than anything else. While we decided against using it, its very existence marked the beginning of a new era for humanity. Why would he destroy it? At this point, this machine is not just our own. One could call it an asset to the entire human race. An asset like that absolutely must not be destroyed by a single man's decision. Okabe stares blankly into space without saying a word. He wasn't so much looking at me as looking through me. There's no need to destroy anything. My voice trembles. I don't understand. Perhaps this is an Okabe that I've never seen, one I don't even know. We're not going to perform any time leaps, we already decided that. Isn't that enough? I was angry, confused, and above all, uncertain. Once again, the fear of the unknown crept over me. All these feelings mixed together and spread through my body. Let's put the chair down. Still struggling with how to resolve the situation, I ordered Okabe to put the chair down. He slowly complied. That's when I finally realized. Okabe's air had completely changed since just a few moments ago. His face showed signs of distress. He looked like an old man who had lived a life of suffering. I don't know what happened to him, but his pain expression looked as if it had been carved from the Okabe I once knew. You look pale, what's wrong? Okabe doesn't respond to my ignorant question. He completely clams up. The agony on his face is as clear as day, yet he chooses to suffer in silence. If this was his usual Chunibyo nonsense, if it was all an act, that would be fine. In fact, I wished it were. I would rather Okabe try to make a fool out of me than suffer something that would make him look like this. Are you listening to me? Frustrated that I don't understand Okabe's pain, I close in on him, as if to press for an answer. And in response, Okabe ran. Hey, wait! Ignoring my words, Okabe dashes out of the lab. I tried to stop him, but couldn't move fast enough. Hold on, I told you to stop! Angrily shouting at him, I ran after Okabe as he took off towards the streets of Akihabara. But his head start was too great. By the time I reached the hall, Okabe was nowhere to be seen. Where'd he go? Why would he do that? My head swimming with questions as I tried to intuit which way Okabe ran. I heard a door open behind me.
Hey, what's going on? It's all the ruckus.
The voice behind me belonged to this building's owner, Tanoji-san. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you happen to see which way Okabe went?
Oh? What's he up to now? I figured something had to be up given how fast he ran out of here.
Tanoji-san lifts his neck and stretches his shoulders with a groan. It doesn't seem like he got a good look from inside his shop. As I turned back towards the streets and tried to decide which way to go, Nai-chan emerged from the shop as well. Son Green ran that way. He looked kind of scary. Nai points down the road heading to Akihabara Station. If you follow that road from the lab, you'll find a park 50 meters away that creates a T-shaped intersection. From there, the path splits. One road leads towards the Kanamyoji Shrine, and the other to Chuodori. There's no way for me to tell which way he went. Okabe. Did something happen? No, nothing important. Just a little confusion, so don't worry. Thank you, Nai-chan. I thank Nai and run toward the heart of Akihabara, hoping to find Okabe. There's no way I can leave him in the state he's in. I had the feeling that I needed to ask him what was really going on before he did something that couldn't be undone. I scoured Akihabara, wandering aimlessly through the Kanamyojin Shrine, the Tsumagoi Shrine, and Chuodori, until I eventually found myself in an alley behind Daibiru. The sun had nearly set, dyeing everything around me in the distinctive amber glow of the August twilight. Where are you? I'm completely spent. My breathing had grown ragged, not because I don't exercise, but I haven't run this much in a long time. A nearby vending machine caught my eye, and I suddenly realized just how thirsty I was. No Dr. P, huh? Now more than ever, I want a nice, refreshing carbonated beverage. Unfortunately, since they didn't sell my favorite brand, I had to settle for a can of coffee. I sigh as I take in my surroundings. No sign of Okabe here, either. Where have you gone? I felt like cursing him out, but what came out of my mouth was just the opposite. I wasn't angry at him, I was worried. I finished my drink, tossed the can into the recycle bin, and continued to look around. I don't know why I'm so worried about him. Because we're allies. Is it because of what he said to me? When did I start taking an interest in him in the first place? I was curious enough to observe him at the start, of course. When did that basic interest become something more? I've only known him for a few days, and my reservations have already been swept away. To be fair, I initially thought he was some sort of gangster or criminal, so those reservations were somewhat misplaced. He made me realize just how much of a facade I had built for myself during my time in America. Well, I've certainly been annoyed by some of my more stupid conversations with Okabe and Hashida. You've never caused me pain. Somehow, while it's hard to admit, I think I might be in love with Okabe. I think I fell for him the moment he said he'd go to Aomori with me.
Of course, you are my assistant, and I will do whatever it takes to ensure that you are in peak mental condition for the experiment.
Honestly, to me, it felt like a proposal. The moment he said that, time seemed to stand still. He kind of pissed me off. I thought that Okabe must tell women stuff like that all the time. Otherwise, there's no way that 5 out of the 8 lab members would be women. Of course, that sort of thing would make women like me misunderstand what he really means. Does that idiot even know what he's doing? Or maybe it's a sign of weakness on the part of the ones who fall for it, suckered in by a massive rush of dopamine. Ever since he told me he'd go to Aomori with me, I watched that stupid man carefully. His words, his mannerisms. The more I watched him, the more I understood the meaning behind his Chunibyo act, and the more attracted to him I became. No, there's no way I can admit that. I can't admit it, I can't, but, well, you know. He is kind of attractive. In that moment, I realized I had given in. In that moment, I understood that being near him put me at ease. Or at least it would if it weren't for the newfound nervousness after realizing my feelings for him. It's too late to try to control it now. I'm not the kind of person who can change her feelings when she's fallen for someone. I realized that the persona I wore at Victor Condoria University's Neuroscience Institute, that of the outward-looking citizen, was unnecessary in front of Okabe. And when I let the mask fall, I felt at ease, more so than I ever have in my life. It's the same sort of freedom I get when I post on that channel. Okabe is suffering, as if his joy is inversely proportional to my own. It's like he's unable to move forward. Though I don't yet know why, it seems that whenever he deviates from his usual state, my condition deteriorates as well. It's like I can't get air into my lungs. I don't like that feeling. Stop trying to struggle through it alone and talk to me. You listened to my problems, didn't you? My thoughts are interrupted by the sound of my cell phone. Hello?
hey, Makishi. Is something up? No one's here at the lab.
Without wasting a second, I tell Hashida all about Okabe's odd behavior. I initially ran after him out of adrenaline and momentum alone, but now I realize that searching for him myself would be unproductive.
Huh? What's Ocarina's deal? Alright, I'll ask around on my end. I'll let everyone know to contact you if they have any information.
Understood. I'm counting on you. I hope someone out there can help us find a clue. Closing my cell phone with what looked like a prayer, I ran off once more into the sunset-lit city in search of Okabe. As I wandered the city in search of Okabe, I suddenly realized how crowded the streets had become.
Hey, did you hear? They stopped the train over a terrorist threat.
Terrorists? Seriously? They're gonna make me late for my meeting. I overheard some unsettling news. Terrorists? Here in Japan? As shocking as the thought was, no country, no matter how peaceful, is immune from the possibility of a terrorist attack. And with public unrest growing lately, they only seem to be on the rise. Because research facilities are often targets, I've been given basic lectures on how to deal with acts of terror. But even then, I never thought I'd have to deal with an attack in Japan. Whether or not the rumor was true, the trains had been stopped. The once bustling railways now stood bare. I opened my phone and take a look at that channel's news page to see it bustling with threads on the topic.
Is it true that bomb threat stopped all lines in the Yamanote line, Sabu line, and Kei Hintoku line?
Old news! It's all stopped. I'm still stuck in Akiba. Where's the bomb?
So fake, lol. Terrorism in Japan? Seriously? Hahaha, dumbasses. Why would anyone launch a terrorist attack in Japan now?
I'm in Shinjuku. They forced us to get off the train. The attendants are evacuating us to a shelter.
Up pics.
People had already uploaded pictures of station attendants escorting people out of stopped trains. It seems like it must have been going on for a while. And in front of Akihabara Station, the crowd was so thick that they blocked the view of the road. It'd be practically impossible to walk through. What should I do? Finding Okabe in these conditions would be a challenge. What if he got caught up in the terrorist attack somehow? Numerous possibilities swirl through my brain, coming and going like a hurricane. None of them are good. Anxiety, dread, pessimism, fear, frustration, unease. I can't just stand here. But I can't decide what to do. I know that acting without care could be fatal, but I can't even begin to formulate a plan. Paris Yan. Paris-san? She's lab number 007, isn't she?
Makita-san, nice to meet you. I'm Ferris Yan. I'm sending this the address that Darren gave me. We found Okabe-san, but he's acting strange. We should hurry and meet up somewhere. Where's good for you?
They found Okabe after all. Thank goodness. But the part where she said she's acting strange disturbs me. I didn't know why, but a chill slowly ran down my spine. Nice to meet you. This is Makise. It'd be a huge help if you could bring Okabe to the lab. I'll head there now. I replied to her email and took a breath. My chest feels like it's going to be crushed with worry. Okabe, what happened to you? Dragging my tired feet, I walked back the way I came. I rendezvoused at the lab to find Okabe, a petite maid, and a middle-aged butler waiting for me. I assumed that the maid was Ferris-san. The middle-aged butler, on the other hand, was a mystery to me. He looked as though he'd stepped right out of a manga or an anime. Okabe looks worn out to the point that it doesn't seem like he can even stand on his own. Ferris-san and the butler are holding him up with their shoulders. Okabe! I rushed towards him without thinking.
Are you Makise-san?
I am. Thank you, Ferris-san, for finding Okabe. Ashida had told me before that this girl was the Rainet champion, and the Ferris Nyanyan was a stage name of sorts.
Not at all. As soon as Darren told me what was going on, I couldn't just twiddle my thumbs. I didn't know all the details, but I knew I needed to find him. For some reason, though, I haven't heard from Darren in a while.
Does she mean Hashida? Could he still be searching for Okabe? Let's put that aside for now. And Okabe, is he?
He's a little calmer now, but when we spotted him at the UPX bridge, we really thought he was about to die.
His face is as white as a sheet of paper now, so hearing that he was in even worse condition earlier makes my heart ache. Okabe's thoughts, his feelings. I have to find out what's going on through his head. Okabe, what happened? But Okabe just stares at nothing. He doesn't make any effort to look at me. There's no use in wasting our time out here. Come on, let's go up to the lab. We asked the butler to shoulder the hollow-eyed Okabe for us and made our way into the lab. I turned on the lights and was greeted by a horrifying sight. What the hell? Bloodstains on the floor?
What? What?
Mary-san gasped behind me, but her reaction was nothing compared to Okabe.
My earring! My earring! My earring! My earring! I'm so sorry.
His scream echoes through the lab. He curls into the fetal position, weeping as he calls Mayuri's name. Okabe!
Yama!
We stood frozen, unsure of how to approach Okabe in this situation. But in the middle of the chaos, the butler alone calmly surveyed the room.
Excuse me.
While the rest of us stood in shocked silence, he boldly approached the bloodstains and began to examine them.
It appears that there were no fatalities. With this amount of blood, the risk of death should be negligible.
The butler's calm, confident declaration made Okabe stand up and rush toward him.
No risk of death? Is Mayuri safe? And Daru too?
Okabe looked like a man possessed. Okabe thinks this blood might belong to Mayuri and Hashida. No, he's convinced of it.
Well, they certainly weren't murdered here. Judging from the blood splatter, it seems someone was struck with a metal object, but it doesn't appear that anyone collapsed. There are signs of a struggle, but it seems it occurred while everyone was standing. It seems to me that they were taken away while they were still standing.
Taken away? CERN? Rounders, maybe? With tears in his eyes, Okabe nearly collapsed under the weight of his despair. I grab him by the arm before he can. Talk, Okabe! What in the world is going on? What happened to Mayuri and Hashida? Try as I might, it was impossible to keep my cool. Two of my friends had just disappeared, leaving only bloodstains in their wake. It's possible that... I can't say for sure, but I believe they were taken by CERN's Rounders. Sir? Excuse me, why?
The time leap machine. They found us!
My heart stopped. CERN, the European Society for Nuclear Research, the world's largest particle physics research organization. Despite their over 40 years of time machine research, they have kept their results hidden from the rest of the world. Rumor has it that they've even killed the human test subjects in their secret time travel experiments. Wait a minute, if they were here for the time leap machine, why would CERN kidnap Mayuri and Hashida? Besides, how does a research institution pull off something like this?
CERN has operational forces known as Rounders. In order to ensure their exclusive control over time machine technology, they attacked us during our celebration party. And killed Mayuri right here.
What? But the butler just said... I looked to the butler for confirmation that Okabe was incorrect. The butler merely shook his head with a slight smile. He seems confident in his assessment. But the reason for Okabe's grim proclamation was made clear by what he said next.
That's why I jumped back to the past with the time leap machine.
Wait, then you...
I leapt through time.
My mind went blank for a moment. He had traveled through time using the time leap machine, a machine we'd agreed not to use due to the need of human testing. Though I had full confidence in my time travel theory, all theories are subject to experimentation and analysis before they're recognized as valid. That's why I felt both relief and regret when we decided not to test the time leap machine. But what Okabe just said validates my theory and speaks to the machine's effectiveness. To say I was unhappy would be a lie. For a researcher, nothing compares to the moment a breakthrough theory of hers has proven true. For just a moment, the terrifying situation I was in melted away. All I wanted to do was ask Okabe about traveling through time. This feeling of elation was shattered by Okabe's sorrowful howl.
Save Mayuri!
Save Mayuri?
Can't. And why? Why can't I save her? Tell me. Why is it that Mayuri has to die?
Mayuri has to die. I tremble at the cruelty of those words. Just hold on. If all of this is true, why didn't you go straight to the police?
I went, but they didn't listen. What I told them sounded like absolute nonsense.
Besides, they've killed Mayuri too. I don't know whether it was an accident or if Rounders have infiltrated the police force.
Still, no matter what I do, Mayuri ends up dead. There's no one I can depend on, no one I can talk to. All I can do is leap back, over and over again. I couldn't save her.
Okabe screamed so loud I thought he might cough up blood. Mayuri's death repeated over and over. Leaping through time, over and over again. A hellish circle of time, an endless cycle of tragedy. No matter how many times he tries to save her, Mayuri inevitably dies. By someone's hand, through some turn of events, by sheer coincidence, between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. To be more precise, apparently, there was one instance in which Mayuri's death occurred later than all the others. In that instance, apparently he was shown a picture of Mayuri transformed into a jelly man around 8 p.m. I nervously checked the clock. 8 p.m. has already come and gone. If what Okabe is saying is true, then Mayuri is already...
Ah!
Okabe raises his voice. It seems he noticed that I was looking at the clock, which in turn drew his eyes towards it. And then he realized that it was already past 8 p.m. Oh no. Before I'm fully aware of what I've done, Okabe's mouth and eyes open wide. In despair.
Ah! Mary! Mary!
Never before had I heard such abject sorrow. And I doubt that I will again, as long as I live. And from his shock, Okabe burst into madness. As he tore at his head and wildly swung his arms around, the butler slowly and gently approached him. And Okabe collapsed with a slight groan. He'd lost consciousness.
Do forgive me. I feared that if I did not intervene, Okabe-sama would have dealt himself serious emotional or physical damage.
No, thank you, Kuroki. I think Kyoma should rest for now because this is too much.
Fair-sen's eyes also flooded with tears. Admittedly, I hadn't fully accepted everything that Okabe had said as truth. But looking at him now, I had no choice. I want to believe him. But if I do... At any rate, we can't just stand around. We need to do something. CERN, the Committee of 300. Rounders. We were living in a nightmare straight out of one of Okabe's Chunibyo delusions. But this is reality, as the despair in front of us can attest to.
But what can we do? I can hardly take all of this in.
We have to think. Hashida Mayuri's face has emerged in the back of my mind. And in front of my eyes is Okabe, his pain evident even as he slept. There's no way I can ignore this. Okabe didn't just ignore my problems with my papa, after all.
May I have a moment, young mistress?
What is it, Kuroki? Have you come up with something?
As we struggle to make sense of the absurd and tragic situation before us, the butler, apparently named Kuroki-san, speaks.
Of sorts. While the intricacies of our current situation continue to elude me, may I suggest consulting your father for now?
Huh?
Fair-sen's father. If he's someone we should consult at a time like this, could he be a cop? But Okabe said that the police were also under CERN's direct control. Then what kind of man is he? Regardless, I'm not thrilled about the idea of relying on an adult. One can say that it's because I've accomplished everything in my life on my own. But at this point, our options were limited. And my experience as a working member of an American research institute does not change the fact that I'm not even old enough to drink. No amount of effort can make up for a lack of social experience, and I certainly haven't learned how to deal with things like this. Outside of contacting law enforcement, I have no idea what to do. And given that we can't trust the police, that puts us all the way back at square one. Normally I would have called bullshit on Okabe's claim that they'd infiltrated the police, but the desperation in his eyes convinced me otherwise. Besides, if the terror threat that shut down public transportation was CERN's doing, we don't have much time to think. I saw Ferris hesitate for a moment, but in an instant she sealed her expression in a show of determination.
I don't think it's a good idea to stay here any longer. Let's go to my place.
We're going to your house? Words catch me off guard. The time leap machine is a prototype that is only confirmed to work in this lab. If we leave, it's going to be a lot harder to keep it safe. That said, if we accept Okabe's claims, it's kind of odd that the time leap machine hasn't been taken already. Then Kuroki responds to my question for Ferris.
Makise-sama, young mistress is correct. This place may be attacked again. I believe the best option is to change location. Please don't worry. Once we depart, I will arrange for someone to guard this place.
Ferris nods at Kuroki's words, her eyes beaming with confidence. Two of them seem to have the situation under control, insofar as it could be controlled. What on earth are these people? It feels as though they're backed by a powerful organization, which struck me as rather suspicious. I didn't have anyone else I could count on. Got it. Above all else, we can't afford to leave Okabe in a dangerous place like this in his condition. One look at the unconscious, agonized Okabe reaffirmed that belief. We were at it ourselves to change location, praying Mayuri and Hashina's safety all the while.
And I think that is a pretty good place to cut it. I'm really interested to see where this goes, because so far this is just following the main plot's sort of progression, but just like one of the iterations of Okabe going back in time. So I'm really, really interested to see like where this goes and where this diverges and why Kurisu was in Fucky Wucky Field at the start. But for now, thank you all so much for following my playthrough of Steins Gate, Linear Bounded Phenogram, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye now!